And again, you're watching Sky News. The Prime Minister has been chairing an emergency Cobra meeting as pressure grows for British military intervention in Iraq. This morning, the French said they'll arm the Kurds fighting Islamist militants, and the US has said it will send more advisors to the region. Joined now live by the Iraqi ambassador to the United States, Lukman FAILY. Thank you for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. How has your country come to this?
Thank you for having me. Well, as you know, we are under attack from a transnational terrorist organization spearheading the Al-Qaeda attack across the world, and that's ISIL, focusing on Iraq and Syria and trying to expand within that into the region.
What responsibility should the West accept in the disintegration, if you will, of what's the structure of your country?
Well, what I'm talking about will not be the geopolitics. More, you have a humanitarian disaster taking place. Ethnicities are being cleansed by this vicious terrorist organization. And also the issue is to do with the humanitarian side, plus the threat to the interest of the United States, West and others with Al-Qaeda. They have a vital interest in the region. The terrorist threat is a global one.
But this disintegration presumably has happened as a result of the removal of the previous dictator that was in place before we saw countries like the US and the UK get involved.
Well, Iraq has, since the early 80s, has been involved in wars. Saddam Hussein waged wars with Iran and then with Kuwait and so on. And we had sanctions, so we had a lot of challenges. With 2003, we have had a democratic process. Elections have been taking place, high participation. The country has tried to, has significantly increased its oil production. So we're working on prosperity on the economical front. However, the security has always been a challenge. It has, Iraq, what we might call, is now the fourth line in the fight against international terrorism. We are spearheading that fight.
It's not working very well, is it?
Well, unfortunately, the challenge is bigger than our capabilities. We have had to rebuild our infrastructure, including the military. We have had to redevelop our internal Iraqi politics. We are new to democracy, so in a way there is a transactional cost associated there. And also, as you mentioned, the United States and others were involved. The early pullout of the United States has not helped us. Now that's behind us. We need to look at the future, where the common threat is facing all of us, including Europe.
Just seeing that our Prime Minister, who's back from holiday early to host a Cobra meeting, I'm sure you're well aware of those, Mr. Ambassador, saying that detailed plans are now being put in place for an international mission to rescue stranded Yazidis in Iraq, and Britain will play a role in delivering it. What would you like Britain to do to help your country?
We have an urgent need for humanitarian aid. Some of these people are stranded without cover in the heat of the summer, without food and so on, without shelter. We also have a threat to the regional security in relation to ISIL, waging its campaign across the various borders. So we also need help there. We have had a strategic framework with the United States. We're working closely, as an ambassador, working closely with the American to help us with air cover. We have had recently good help. Not enough, more need to be done. The campaign is not an overnight campaign. It has to be sustainable. There has to be political focus across the region, and it's not local to the Iraq. So our neighbors have to play their part as well.
Does that mean military intervention on behalf of the West?
What we have said is we have asked the United States to provide us with air cover. We have never asked for troops. We will not ask for troops. We have had the experience of the last 10 years with the troops being there. What we need now is primarily air cover, political cover, aid in relation to the humanitarian challenges we have in the north, and primarily political support within the region. ISIL is a regional, global threat. They have eventually our neighbors will feel that pain. We want them to work with us so that they don't have that pain of dealing with ISIL directly themselves.
Does that mean you don't want any military intervention on behalf of the UK, the US, France and the like?
We have a strategic framework agreement with the United States. We are working closely with them. We have asked the United States for their air support. We would appreciate help on the humanitarian side from others. However, at this stage, what we are saying is we need to work on a number of fronts: humanitarian, political, and security.
But a lot of your security personnel, it would appear, have basically thrown down their weapons and run away because they were so intimidated by the likes of the Islamic State. Surely you're going to need help on the ground. It doesn't matter how long we put it off, it does look as though that's going to be the only way forward for your country.
We are somewhat still hesitant, and we would say that we would not want other troops to be on the ground. The only country which we have a strategic framework with is the United States. We think the help from the United States should suffice in the military side. We may need help in others, in tactical, in certain counter-terrorism cooperation and others. Certainly that might be welcome. As to other type of help, political, humanitarian and others, surely all the European and others should look at this as a threat to themselves as well.
And you say military help from the United States, do you mean in the form of airstrikes and nothing more than that?
At this moment, we are working with them in relation to airstrikes, drones, F-18s and so on, counter-terrorism cooperation. And we think we need to intensify that and also look at the various theaters of operation within Iraq. However, we as Iraqis are having that fight ourselves on the ground. We have mobilized our people. We think that we can manage that, but we also know we need help. So we're not denying that.
Okay. Mr. Ambassador, as far as the present Prime Minister is concerned, Nouri al-Maliki, Turkey, the UN, Iran have all said that it's time for him to go. He still holds on for now. Should he go?
He's a caretaking Prime Minister. There are issues with the judiciary. They're looking at it. There has been discussions with His Excellency the President. As to who should go as an ambassador, that's not in my position to say. What I would say is that I can see that we are all working primarily in Baghdad, in dialogue, trying to come out with a solution which will help us to focus on our security threats.
Mr. Ambassador,
we are new to democracy.
Do go on, sorry.
Yes. No, we are new to democracy, so I think the formation of the government has taken much faster time than before. Previously it took 6 months or 9 months. Now we are talking about 6 weeks. So in a way we are looking at this from a new culture.
Mr. Ambassador, a final question. How worried do you think the West should be about the Islamic State?
I would think it's an immediate threat, to be honest. We know for a fact that we have captured in Iraq jihadists who came from Europe. We have captured some who came from the United States and others. So we know that they have passports. They are not local indigenous. There are those who are international, and they would want to use that skill when they go back home. And as I've said before, if you had one Bin Laden in Afghanistan, in Iraq you will have 1,000 Bin Laden.
Your Excellency, it's good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Gilbert Green.